What's going on, everybody? We are back at the Club and Sub Podcast, episode number 245. Today we're breaking down UFC Houston. Or not tonight, this afternoon, I should say. It is 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on a Friday afternoon. Rainy on the East Coast. I don't know if it's rainy by you, Legs, but it is rainy here.
Not too much now.
No, it's shit. But it's pretty shit by me. We got Sean Strickland taking on Anthony Hernandez, though. Fluffy tomorrow. Pretty cool card from Houston. I think it's a very watchable. We'll get into how bettable or not bettable it is. I'm excited to talk about it. As always, guys, if you like the show, drop a like, subscribe, share it, please. And yeah, I don't feel the need to talk about last card. I don't need to break down Julius Walker getting face planted in round 2. That was really that was my night.
Yes.
It's basically, it determined the night for me. All my props did well, but I bet Walker and Albazi and neither. Well, I don't know. Walker might have been a good bet. Albazi was not a good bet. but how did you do last weekend?
Similar to you, I was going to say, like, I lost, I think, like 1.5 units, 1.6 units. So, like, if Walker hits, then, nice night there. But
he had a good first round. He had a pretty good first round, but obviously the risk was him always getting cold cocked and put to sleep. So sad. But yeah, let's hop into it. Let's hop right into it. UFC Houston, Texas judges. We'll see what happens here. Texas has been the house of horrors for judging in the UFC. However, lately they've been getting more Vegas guys out there. So hopefully that's the case. But the first fight of the night, we got a banger. Carly Judice, she's taking on Juliana Miller. Current price, Crispy Carly minus 800. Come back on Juliana Miller plus 550. I will find myself to a Miller bet here by fight time. I will tell you that. I won't be a big one. It'll be small. But
right.
And I say this as like, I think Carly Judice is going to be potentially could be a future champ. Great cardio, great work rate. She seems durable. All things you really look for, in for someone to really climb the rankings. My issue with Carly at this point in time is threefold. The first is, she's very, very easy to hit. Like, she's not, she doesn't have great defense at this point in her career, which goes hand in hand with the second issue, which is she's very, very green. We don't, she's only 5-2. She's had 7 pro fights. Both women have. She hasn't really developed any one skill in her arsenal thus far in her career. What she's been relying on are really strong physical intangibles, which are, great cardio, great durability. And, obviously she's very, very tough, working, working in herself into that Gabby Hernandez fight. And Gabby's a pretty talented striker, was pretty impressive. But she's just green everywhere, and including in the grappling. I don't see a lot to suggest to me that, she's a particularly good grappler at this juncture in her career. And she's taken on Juliana Miller, who, Miller is not particularly a strong fighter. I think we'd both agree with that. Obviously she's kind of a victim on the feet, very, very easy to hit. But what she does do well, she's got good cardio. She's got very, very good grappling if she gets on top of you. Good body triangle, very dangerous submission game, pretty good ground and pound from top position. Just positionally, she's very sound if she gets on top of you. And that's kind of it, Now, can she get Carly Judice down? I don't know. I really don't know. I think she probably can. But I feel like for Judice, for this price to be right, it basically assumes that, like, there's basically no grappling equity for Juliana Miller. You know what I mean? And I just don't think that's true, because it's the kind of fight where it's like, it would be one thing if it was minus 300. And it's like, okay, Miller might need 2 back takes or a sub to win the fight. At plus 550, 2 back takes and a sub, or 2 to 3 takedowns and a lot of control or a body triangle. That seems like more than a 15% outcome to me. I feel like that's like 25%. I think true price Judice is closer to minus 300 here. I'll probably have a small poke on Miller by fight time. What do you think?
I think most of Miller's equity relies on her getting the grappling going. So, I just don't think she can really. And so in that instance, she's stuck on the feet, and Judice is going to piece her up. So I think the under's priced accordingly. Like, I kind of had some interest there, because I think if Miller gets on top, she can probably find a finish. And conversely, like I said, if it stays standing, she'll probably find a finish. But minus 160 seems like about accurate. You know what I mean? Don't want to.
I'm honestly just be more tempted to an over, just because I do think even in the event that Miller can't get her down, she's probably going to cage push her a lot. I'd imagine she's going to try
at least.
to. Yeah. Or you
Whether
might
she
even
has
have a
success doing
scenario.
it, yeah.
But you might even have a scenario where it's like the Veronica Hardy fight, right? Where it's like, she fails on takedowns, and just ends up on bottom underneath her. You know what I mean?
I think Judice is a solid physical specimen, much more athletic, I think, than Miller.
Yeah. Big by a huge margin.
I think it's gonna be tough. I think unless she has a severe cardio dump, maybe Miller has success late, but I don't think a ton of grappling success happens. But we'll see.
Yeah. Second fight of the night, we got Yadier Delval coming off winning a fixed fight. He's taking on Jordan Leavitt, current price. I'm sorry. I mean, let's call it
No.
That's fine. That's the truth.
We'll just end it there. We don't need to talk about it more. I'm glad you did that.
Yadier Delval. I've heard a couple people this week be like, "Oh, you have to give him credit for smashing Bulgarian, even if it was fixed." Like, why? Why do you have to give him credit for winning a fixed fight? That's ridiculous,
right?
But he's minus 400 here. The comeback on Leavitt plus 300. What do you think, Legs?
I honestly think the line could be wider personally, because this is twofold. One, I mean, Leavitt coming down to 145. I think that's horrible for him. He has horrible cardio as is, and I think he's going to have to push a wrestle heavy pace here, similar to Miller in the last fight, to have success, because on the feet, again, I think there's a huge gap between him and Delval. And then, I mean, I think Delval has obviously sneaky front chokes if Leavitt's trying to get in on the hips. So I think he definitely either can finish him in the grappling transitions or either on the feet. I like Delval as a parlay piece this week, personally. I think it's a solid.
Yeah.
It might sound square, but I think it's even value at the number.
I want to get to a Leavitt bet, but I don't know that I'm going to, because for some of the reasons you just touched on. I'll be honest, I kind of like the move to 45. I think you and I have discussed this before, but I think with some of these guys, if they cut the weight right and they like a lot of times you actually see cardio improve down a weight class, because to get to that weight, they have to be running more, working out harder. And so it just turns out that working out harder means your cardio holds up better,
Shocker.
And so I don't mind it for Leavitt if he did it right. And he's going to be bigger for the weight class than he has been from 155. But at the same time, you are right. We have a fairly lengthy history of Jordan Leavitt slowing down in extended fights. And I think that's the big issue from here. Because on paper, I think him controlling Delval for a round, even 2 rounds, isn't really all that crazy.
I could see a round 3 type of situation. You know what I mean? Maybe him hanging on.
Yeah.
If he really cardio dumps, but because Delval's cardio is not the greatest either. But
I don't think Delval is that good, to be honest with you. He's a physical specimen. He's got good power, he's got good volume, but
good submissions too,
Yeah, from top position, but there's a lot of tape of him having pretty clear weaknesses in the defensive wrestling and a pretty porous get-up game, in my opinion. So, I mean, obviously Leavitt's the kind of guy you kind of want to take advantage of that with, right? That the fact that he struggled to get up against the guy who's going to grapple him. And if Leavitt did, control him for a round or 2, it wouldn't shock me. My issue is, though, kind of the point that you pointed out, Danny. It's I don't really trust Leavitt to wrestle hard for 3 rounds and not gas out. The other issue is Leavitt hasn't historically tended to prioritize positional control. He likes to jump submissions from those positions. And if he doesn't get it, good chance he ends up on bottom. And I think Delval on top could do plenty of work to Leavitt. And then on the feet, Delval's just got a big edge. So it's I see the vision for a Jordan Leavitt win here. The problem is not only does he have to execute a perfect game plan where he lands takedowns and control him, his cardio's got to hold up, and he's got to fight off all his best impulses or all his worst impulses. And then he also has to not get knocked out while they're on the feet. Just seems like a big ask to me. I'm not passionate about it. I'll probably end up passing it, to be honest.
It seems like he's got to walk a tightrope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Both in the grappling and striking.
Which he could, but is walking a tightrope more than 1 and 4? I don't know. I kind of doubt it, So moving on, we got John Paul Njokuani. He's taking on Phil Rowe. Current price, JPL minus 205. The comeback on Rowe plus 175. I was 100% going to bet Rowe until he missed weight a few minutes ago. I don't know if I will get there now. I'm not really a fan of JPL's game, to be honest. He's a little guy, former lightweight. He's 5'11", 72-inch reach. very, very, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, which is cool, but his wrestling kind of stinks and he doesn't really use it all that much. He mostly wants to strike. He's boxing. He's very, very flat-footed with it. Very, very wild. He's very, very easy to hit himself. He's a very good kicker, though. Good kicks to all levels. Most of his finishes have been usually initiated by landing a damaging kick, and he disguises them really well. It actually kind of reminds me a bit of like Robert Whittaker with how well he disguises his kicks behind his punches. But that's for the comparisons with Robert Whittaker. And
good shout though.
Yeah. The issue is he's taking on Phil Rowe. Phil Rowe has looked pretty dusty of late, but Phil Rowe, he's going to be 4 inches taller here. He's got a 9-inch reach advantage. He's the far crisper boxer. I think he's got more power in his hands. I think he measures distance a bit better than JPL does. JPL could get to top position and control him, but I don't think JPL is that good a wrestler. So I'm I actually think they both guys could potentially get the top position, but I don't think either's likely. I kind of think they're mostly going to strike. And I just, Rose, he's just a lot more experienced at this level. I think he hits a bit harder. I think he's got better hands. The issue with me with Rowe is just JPL is 26 years old. Rowe's 36 years old, right? Rowe is much closer to the end than the beginning, whereas JPL should be getting better every single fight. And Rowe has looked a bit old lately, which is kind of weird because on just tape wise, I like Rowe here a fair amount, but between the weight miss, his age, some of his more disheartening performances lately, it's kind of tough to pull the trigger, but I might do it. I mean, what do you think?
I've never really been a fan of Rowe in general. It's mostly just been a physical intangibles thing for him. Like you talked about, huge length, huge reach in both matchups. Sneaky power on the feet too, but doesn't throw a ton on the feet. Poor defensive grappler. And even though JPL is not a great wrestler, he can definitely take advantage of him. Land 1 or 2 takedowns, maybe control him for a few minutes, steal around that way. And on the feet, I think he can land some good shots on the feet against Phil. And Phil conversely can obviously land good shots. He's been knocked out before too, JPL. So, but it might be pretty low volume. I know you talked about that a little bit too. So maybe an overlook. It feels like just one of those fights where it's it's low tempo until there's a finish. If JPL does find a finish,
I really like the overlook, to be honest, because so much of you've seen it. So much of JPL's tape is him landing critical hits with his kicks, but against the guy who's so much longer and so much taller, it's not going to be easy to find flush head kicks against Phil Rowe. This isn't Keegan Genrich. Yeah. So I like the idea of the over 2.5 at plus money. I kind of think, to your point, I think it's going to be pretty low paced here. And JPL looks durable to me, so I kind of think this fight to go long is not a bad shout.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, we got Ramez Brahimi taking on Punahele Soriano. This line has moved all over the place all week. Currently, Brahimi is minus 115. The comeback on Soriano, minus 105. What do you think, Danny?
Well, this feels like the Civil War fight of the week.
Yeah.
This one's tough for me, honestly, because I feel like you could make good arguments for both, and that's why I think we're seeing that. Because, on the Puna side, on the feet, I think he's the better striker, hits harder, and probably has more volume if it does go 15. Probably pretty competitive, though. You got to give Ramez, a big credit. Got some power, too. And in the wrestling, Puna can probably land takedowns, but I don't know if he can stay safe really for 15. His gas is not that good, and that's really one of the big red flags of his game in general. And same thing for Timmy Ramez. Doesn't have great cardio. Probably needs to find a finish to get a win here, but I think he easily could. On the feet, Puna's easy to find. And if Puna's trying to grapple, obviously Ramez has good chokes. So it's an interesting fight. Volatile fight. I lean at finishing. I probably lean Ramez finishing. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I after I initially taped it, leaned the Ramez side. Then I started thinking about the fight more. Went back and taped it and leaned the Puna side. Honestly, it's ultimately going to be a pass for me. Here's my issue. So it's very easy on Puna's tape to be oh my God, every time this fucking guy shoots a takedown, he puts his neck in a bad place. And if he does that to Ramez, he's going to tie something up. And I do think that's the case. If he's attempting outside singles, and outside high crotches, what he was doing to Vorotenikov, there's a very good chance he's going to get submitted in this fight. Ramez's front choke series is just much nastier than that. And Vorotenikov stinks. It's not that doesn't really tell us much that he didn't finish it and he got fucking close, to be honest. And on the feet, I don't think either is particularly defensively sound. I think I prefer Puna a bit more just because I like his power more. I think his hands are a bit faster, and I think he throws a bit straighter to the target. But I also think Ramez, he does throw some decent body kicks, which, we've seen adversely affect Puna in the past. So, I don't know. I think it's interesting. I lean Puna there. The issue is, and what I ultimately came back to here and why I lean the Puna side overall is like, I mean, how often is Ramez actually going to guillotine him? I know he did it 2 fights in a row, but like Billy Goff went full retard, which, I mean, sorry, don't cancel me. Which Puna might do. That's, I wouldn't say it's not impossible. No. And I think Vanderford, if you look at that sequence, his eye got busted open bad by the head kick Ramez landed. And I think he kind of just panicked and just didn't want to like disengage at all. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, I don't think I could say guillotine is more than like a 20% outcome. You know what I mean? And if it's not that, I just can't help but remember the rest of Ramez's Brahimi's career other than these 3 fights. Like, this is still the guy that got absolutely
we bet Court
bullied.
McGee against him.
Yeah, and he bullied him.
By Court McGee.
Old ass Court McGee bullied him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
And then Demba Garimbo, who's not that good, bullied him. And I keep thinking in my head, I'm like, well, what if Puna just fights smart and instead of shooting at his legs, just does what Demba did and just clinches him up in the body? Yeah, it is tall ass. But like, if he decides he's going to put him in the body lock, is there anything that like Ramez is going to be able to do about it? I don't really think
he just never looks to shoot like that.
No, he doesn't.
More often than not.
I guess my view is I see a lot more scope for Puna winning this fight via a dominant decision. Like, I can picture them both finishing the fight, but like, if you tell me one guy wins like 30-26, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Puna. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to bet it, dude. I'm with you. I think I there will be at least 1 to 2 really dicey moments for Puna in this fight, where he's like, where it looks like he's going to get finished. So
yeah, it's
good for me to pass.
100%.
Moving on, Nora Cornolle taking on Joselyne Edwards.
Another fight good to pass.
Another fight good to pass. Edwards minus 315. Comeback Cornolle plus 265. Honestly, I think the line's fine. I guess you could say Cornolle won the first fight and she did do some work on the feet. I don't really buy that Edwards has made huge improvements, but I don't really think she needs to have made huge improvements. She probably deserved to win the first fight. And the truth is, we saw how dominant she can be in the grappling here. I kind of think Cornolle pulling out that kind of a super tight decision is a pretty low percentage outcome, even if this fight plays exactly like that. But Cornolle is older. Edwards, in theory, should be improving. Edwards is a giant grappling edge. Even if they're standing, I think Edwards can compete there. Minus 300 seems fine to me. If anything, I'd be looking at like a GTD in the minus 275 range. That kind of interests me. But yeah, I'm not going to go into a big analysis here. I think Edwards wins pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
How about you?
Same here, honestly. I think the line's justified. Huge gap in the wrestling and even in the striking. I think she's probably even the better striker than Nora.
Yeah,
Nora just hits harder. Like, she can have some moments, but Edwards should be smart here. Should be able to dominate the fight in the wrestling.
Moving on, we got Alvin Correa taking on Luis Gerule. Current price, Correa minus 400. The comeback on Gerule plus 300. I was like thinking about playing Correa earlier in the week at like minus 275. I ultimately passed just because it's like I laid Gerule minus 220 in his last fight and lost, and Correa was plus 400 in his debut and won. Like, that just feels like a bad market dynamic to steer into. Yep. Yeah. So if you lose that, it feels bad. I do think Correa is going to beat him pretty bad, though, to be honest. In my opinion. He's got, like, to me, look, maybe I'm overreacting to one performance, but Correa does seem like he's the goods to me. Really fast hands, good output, good power, good kicks, can fight out of both stances. He can wrestle offensively. He can defend wrestling. He's only 27. He should be getting a lot better. Correa to me looks like a very, very legit prospect. Gerule on the other side. Dude, I mean, I thought Gerule was going to be decent coming into the UFC because like his regional tape and, the pitch and any fight and contenders look pretty good for him. It's like, oh, he's got pretty good cardio, good low kicks, heavy pressure. He could just be one of these marauders who's not that physically gifted, but he's very, very durable and he can just press forward and kick guys tired. But then he gets here and you just see it and it's like his wrestling's not that good. Which I think we knew, but I don't think it's something he's can lean on in this division. His striking, yeah, he's got okay boxing, but he's so slow, man. The guy is glacially slow. His head strike defense isn't that great. He doesn't have the best footwork. And now, after having a career where he relied a lot on durability, it's like he gets knocked out bad by Ode, gets hurt twice by Jesus Aguilar. And so now it's like you have this guy who's really short for the division, both in terms of stature and reach, who is slow, who now also has declining durability. Those are just like a really bad combination for flyweight. So I understand why people would want to back Gerule here because, he is an experienced guy. He's fought comparable fighters to Cora before. I just look at it and I think Cora's speed is going to be way too much for him. What do you think, Lex?
I think the last fight's just such a bad look. Like, I know, like, we all talked about, like, in the Ode, we talked about in the Ode fight, like, he had a huge wrestling advantage there, and he, did expose that to some degree, and we'll get to the Ode, Ode and the Leavitt soon enough. But I just feel like, that last fight against Aguilar, if he's beating you up on the feet, that's just a tough look. Korea's going to murder you on the feet.
That's what I'm saying.
And I feel like it doesn't go the distance here. Maybe a slight plus money might be a good way to look into it. I was just looking to see if the SGPs weren't bad. And so if you go Korea money line and start round 2, -170, a little chalky, not a bad way to look at it.
It's not terrible, actually. How would you price Alessandro Costa and Luis Gerule?
See, like, I think Costa would be like in the minus close to 200.
Yeah, that's about that's about where I am. Yeah,
Yeah.
So we're on the same page with that. I think we're going to be talking about Korea in big fights like in the not too distant future. Maybe I'll be wrong, but that's kind of my base case with him right now.
Yeah.
Moving on, we got Ode Osbourne taking on Yadier. Ode Osbourne or Yadier -130 at the moment. Ode Osbourne +110. What do you think, Danny?
I played the fight doesn't go the distance -140.
Okay. Ooh, I don't mind that.
Yeah, I think the pace is going to be pretty high on the feet. Elyse's trying to push that high pace, spinning attacks, sneaky power on the feet. Ode's going to have a huge striking advantage, in my opinion, though. And so I feel like while it does stay standing, he's going to have a ton of finishing opportunities himself. He's going to have some sneaky sub opportunities when Elyse's trying to shoot takedowns. And I think Elyse is going to have a decent grappling edge here. So -140, you have a ton of finishing opportunities here on both sides. I think it should be a decent fight for Ode because, it's tough to see Elyse's like physicality really going far in the UFC because he just he kind of seems like a little bit of a weenie.
Yeah, if Ode wasn't Ode, I'd be like very, very passionate about him winning this fight. Even with that said, I do sort of think he's this. Like, yeah, it is so low, and if Yadier does get on top of him, I don't even think Elyse is that great a grappler. But if he does get on top of him, it's like we've seen Ode collapse with not that many good grapplers on top of him. You know what I mean? But my issue is I'm with you on the feet. Elyse does some cool, like, dynamic stuff, but from a practical standpoint, he's not a very good striker. He's very easy to find. His boxing is pretty bad. It's a lot of spinning stuff, and he wants to pressure. The problem is he's given away 7 inches of reach and 1 inch of height. He's given away a lot of speed. Ode's hands are really, really good. He's going to find the target a lot. And, like, I'm not sure. And this is my whole thing. Like, if you told me Yadier could get to the front foot here and stay there, I think he wins this fight comfortably. Because I think if he does that at some point, he's going to get Ode down a couple times, and snowball it from there. But I don't know.
Tough with the size.
Yeah, I don't know that he can get to the front foot. Like, if he tries to push forward, I think he's going to get touched up, in my opinion, a lot.
Yeah, the speed's going to be huge. Like early.
The speed and the power, really, Yeah. And I'm not sure, even though he's a decent grappler, I don't think his wrestling is very good. It's all really from the clinch. And, like, that's not the kind of wrestling you can really initiate off your back foot if you're getting pushed backwards. You know what I mean? And so I sort of think, I don't know that he's, like, in my brain, like, the way I pictured it, it's going to be really hard for him to get Ode's respect. And if he can't get his respect, he's probably going to get dunked on for a lot of the fight. But having said that, Ode's a perpetual bag fumbler, right? And Ode does get tired. Like, if Ode doesn't find a KO in the first 7-8 minutes, there's a pretty good chance that Adiris then can kind of just like buckle down, bite the mouthpiece, push forward, get on top of him, and just maul him down the stretch. So my gut feeling is O'Day, but I do feel like Adiris has a much higher floor than O'Day, right? And potentially even a higher ceiling, honestly. I think O'Day stylistically poses some pretty bad matchup problems, but like, I think in your worst case with Adiris, unless he gets knocked out early, he's probably going to come on late. And in your best case, he's getting takedowns. Whereas O'Day, your best case is he's knocking him out early. If that doesn't happen, it's mauled. Yeah, and if he wins the fight and he doesn't knock him out early, you're probably sweating your dick off and being completely clenched, hoping he can survive to the end, at the end of this fight. So I don't know. It's a well-matched fight. It's a well-matched fight. I'm looking forward to it. Moving on, banger fight here. We got Chidi and Njokuani taking on Carlos Leal. Current price. This one's been all over the map too. Carlos Leal minus 130. He's taking some money right now. Chidi plus 110. What do you think, Danny?
So we were talking right before the fight started about overs I was looking into, or other potential props in that vein. This fight to start round 2 is minus 140. Has some interest, but I know it's going to be an absolute car crash early, and it kind of lends to Leal's last fight. Getting knocked out in the last fight, I feel like he's going to be a little bit more tentative in this fight. I mean, Chidi, if he just comes right at Chidi, I think Chidi's Muay Thai is going to be super dangerous. He's got super dangerous knees, kicks. I mean, they could easily finish each other in the first round. There's a ton of power coming from both sides. Both guys kind of easy to touch. It could easily be a sloppy fight if we get out of the first round, just a sloppy back end. But I think we get out of the first round. Minus 140, 58%.
It's a very strange fight because when I first saw it, before I had looked at it, I saw Leal minus 180 and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to bet that. Like, he's got such a giant hardware edge here. Like, he should really walk through Chidi. And then I taped it and it's like, who has Leal really walked through? Like, other than Alex Morono's corpse? Like Alex Morono, he's at the end, he is at the end. And
Chidi's certainly not.
No, he's old, but Chidi, he's showing some potency still,
And at least physical compared to Morono bag of milk.
Like, Leal's best skill is that he's on steroids and he hits hard and he can take punishment, except in his last fight where he got knocked out early. But like, Carlos Leal, has he ever, been in an extended fight that wasn't competitive? It's not like he's ever dunking on guys, in extended fights. Like, he lost twice to Sada Busi, just off not being able to get inside of C's boxing. Chris Breezy Brown, my boy Chris Breezy Brown, who I love, but like, they went to a split decision, and Chris Brown is not UFC level. He's a very fun fighter to watch, but that's a pretty dicey fight in the context of this fight. Look, Chidi's got a big power edge. If he can get inside and flurry on, or not Chidi, Leal. If he can get inside and flurry on Chidi, he could definitely put him down. He could definitely have moments. I would think he does have a cardio edge in this fight. But to your point, I think at distance, I think he's going to have a hard time dealing with Chidi's kicks. I think he's going to have a hard time dealing with Chidi's length. And it's not just one of these things where I think he can crash forward like he did against Sada Busi to keep those fights close and clinch him up, because Chidi's just much better in the clinch than he is. Like, it is not even close. He will destroy him in the clinch. So like, Leal kind of has to be in like his perfect range. You know what I mean? Like, in that tight space in the pocket where he's not clinched up and he's not at kicking range. Now, if he can find that range, he can definitely have success and put Chidi down here. And I do think Leal having superior durability and superior power likely still provides him enough advantages that he should probably be that this should be like pick him to him being a slight favorite. But I think Chidi has a lot of skills to negate like a lot of what Carlos Leal wants to do. So like, I think it's a really close fight. I think it's just going to come down to whether Leal can find his preferred range or not. If he can't, Chidi's probably just going to chew him up. If he can, he'll probably knock him out.
I think it's a deserved pick him. Like, I think anybody who's got that big plus money on Chidi, I think that was a side.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw someone say yesterday, they're like, oh man, like, because they're from funny business, this line's been one-way traffic. I'm like, I don't know, did you tape the fight? Like, it's not like it seems like a pretty good fight to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, we'll see what happens. Moving on. banger fight here. Well, potential banger, depending on where Michel Pereira is at. Current price, Michel Pereira is -155. The comeback on Zach Reese is +135. To me, Pereira looks like he is at the end, which is crazy because he's not that old, but
He seems checked out.
Yeah, I gotta say, even the Fluffy fight, I know he went into the spin cycle there, and that's rough. But I mean, dude, this guy was gassed out 2.5 minutes into that fight, and that was before the takedowns really started. You know what I mean? Like he kind of like put it on Fluffy for 2.5 minutes, and then he just completely cardio dumped. You know?
Well, it seems like one of the that fight specifically was like you knew like that matchup, like maybe like some didn't, but like going into that fight, like you knew that Pereira was not going to be like well prepared if it got out of like 5 minutes. Like he was going to look like that, you know what I mean? Like he wasn't going to have an optimal game plan, even though he needed to try to stuff takedowns. But it looked, like you said, awful.
But then in his next fight against Abus, he looked just catastrophic for that entire fight.
Like he wasn't even there.
Yeah. He was like a shell of himself. It was very, very strange. And then last fight, look, getting flatlined by Kyle Dawkins is a bad look. I will say he did kind of sidestep into a check hook. Like it's not like he got put down by nothing. Yeah,
he was just like nothing. Like I mean, I was just watching that back. Was like, what are you doing there, man?
Yeah,
it just looks sloppy. It looks sloppy.
It's yeah. I mean, London said in the chat. I do think if you were getting like prime Pereira, he matches up very well here. Zach Reese, I've never been high on him. I'm still not particularly high on him. He's obviously got pretty good power. He's long for the division. Good jiu-jitsu off his back. He's an okay grappler, nothing special. I also don't think he's got the best cardio ever. And I look at this fight, I feel like Reese is on the better trajectory. Like he should be getting better. Pereira seems like he's on the way out, but also like Zach Reese has had some bum ass performances against like pretty fucking bad fighters, man.
Dusko.
Whereas like even like I think I'd favor Kyle Dawkins against Zach Reese. I think, you know, I would definitely favor Abus against him. I mean, obviously Fluffy. So like Pereira, you know, he kind of took a step up in competition and is fighting a level he just couldn't beat. Although I wouldn't put Kyle Dawkins on that level. I think he kind of just got lucky, to be honest. But whereas Zach Reese has been like really slumming it up and going to like close decisions with like the dregs of the division. I kind of like an over and I like a GTD here. Because I do think there is some potential that both of these guys could like find the button early in this fight. But I mean, Zach Reese has been to a bunch of decisions with bad guys. And like, if this gets out of the first round, I think Pereira is going to like, the pace is going to slow to like a crawl here. You know what I mean? And so it's getting like priced to finish at a super high clip. But I feel like 70% of like a finishing equity is in like round one. Like, I think once it gets out of round one, you're probably looking at a bunch of ugly clinching or something like the Abus fight to happen. I think it should be like a favorite to go over 1.5, not plus money. And I think to go the distance should be like 40%, not like 25. You know what I mean? So I like this fight to go long. I'm going to probably take a shot at it. What do you think, Danny?
Yeah, I completely agree with you with both sides, like leaning on the Michel side and leaning into the over. I feel like if it doesn't finish in the first round, you probably get a bit of a staring contest, maybe a little bit of a cardio dump from both guys. I mean, I don't think that by any means Reese is just going to the mouthpiece and go after Michel, but we'll see. I guess maybe he'll see his recent form and maybe want to have a highlight, but I think it goes over, to your point.
Yeah, agreed. Moving on, banger fight here. We got two undefeated prospects. Jacobe Smith, he's taking on short notice Josiah Harrell. Current price, Jacobe Smith is -320. The comeback on Harrell is +270. I took Smith at -250 a bit earlier in the week. I think the line isn't a lot wider than it is because a lot of, the market looks at Smith's last fight and him looking pretty tired against Nico Price. Yeah. And they're like, man, Harrell's got great cardio. If Smith doesn't finish him early here, he's going to get swamped. I'm not really sure Jacobe Smith's got bad cardio, to be honest. He did look a little tired against Nico Price, but like when he needed to in that fight, he buckled, even when he was tired, he dropped, Nico with a jab. And like when he needed to, he went right back to the ground and submitted him. But also he's been to a decision multiple times in his career and looked fine in round threes in those fights, granted against lower competition, but Contender Series, he landed 7 takedowns in about 8 minutes. And that was a pretty high pace and he didn't look tired at all. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could have been an off night for him. We don't really know. But, like, I'm not really ready to say he's got bad gas. In the context of this fight, you know, he obviously has the much better wrestling background. Harrell, probably the better jiu-jitsu background of the two. Smith's a lot bigger than him. He's taller. He's 5 inches longer. I think he is the much better boxer. Just straighter shots, a lot more power on those shots. I think Harrell's a pretty easy target to find. No, I think Smith kind of is as well. It's like if Harrell lands some shots here, I wouldn't be shocked. The big thing to me is just, first of all, I think Smith's like a real hitter, has like serious power, and I think has a real chance to like end this fight in round one on the feet. But if he doesn't, I think he can wrestle Harrell here. You know, I know Harrell's had done decent scrambling against like decent fighters and outlasted some okay regional guys. I just feel like scrambling for submissions against a guy who's as heavy on top as Smith is going to be problematic. Like, this isn't Keegan Gingrich he's fighting, you know. It's not that Dozmatov dude who just like death gassed in his last fight. You know, if he tries to scramble for a heel hook on Smith, he's probably going to end up getting like smashed on bottom by him. And it's also just something I think about where, like, I think the entire case for Harrell here is him out cardioing Smith down the stretch. But, like, I can pretty easily picture, even if Smith gets tired, like a tired Jacobe Smith landing big shots or just landing takedowns and just, like, clinching him up in the body lock and Harrell not being able to disengage from it. So, for me, I think Harrell's an interesting prospect. I think Jacobe Smith's a legit prospect. He's got, you know, huge power. He's a great wrestler. He's got great positional control. He's got great ground and pound. Maybe Harrell can out-cardio him, but I think he wins round one or finishes in round one at a huge clip. And I think he can just kind of, you know, be the more practical process fighter down the stretch here if he needs to. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the line's fine, honestly. Like, to me, I wanted to see how Harrell's striking was, because I felt like watching his fights, his cardio seems fine. Wrestling, again, seems like he has a good wrestling background, so he can probably compete there maybe with Smith. But on the feet, like, it's mostly just leg kicks and kind of some blitzing attacks forward, where I feel like Smith can easily land some big shots there on the feet. So it probably has a huge advantage on the feet. And in the wrestling, Smith, to your point, can land takedowns here, can probably control him. So,
did he strike you as a guy, like, when I was taping it, Harrell doesn't really strike, like, he can fight at a high pace, but he doesn't really strike me as a guy who's going to push the pace with his hands like all that much. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of think Smith could sit back and just pick his shots if he wants, if he's tired. You know what I mean? So,
right. There's a difference of having good cardio versus pushing a high pace.
Yeah. Yeah. Moving on, we have got very interesting fight here. Very curious to hear your take. Sergey Spivak, Ante Delija. This line has been one-way traffic towards Spivak all week. It is down to minus 130 Delija, plus 110 Spivak. What do you think?
All right there, John. I mean, I kind of understand the line move to some degree, because I feel like a lot of Delija's win equity is in that first round. Like, if he's not sparking Spivak out in the first round, it's probably getting hairy. Like, he doesn't have the best cardio. He's not a great nail. I mean, I could easily see Sergey getting takedowns going in the back half of this fight. My issue is, can he survive the first 5 minutes? Because on the feet, I mean, there's a huge striking gap. But I feel like anytime Delija is trying to get close, Sergey's is going to try to clinch him up, maybe can get him down early. And if he can get him down early, he can probably do great work, probably find a finish too. So I think there's way more finishing upside, I should say, in totality, I feel like, for Sergey in the back half. Way more than there is with Delija in the first half of the fight.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, like, on paper, what you just said makes a lot of sense. And I don't even disagree with it. Like, I think Spivak's got the much more reliable cardio. I guess my issue is I haven't bet Ante, but I'm thinking about it. And if it keeps coming, I will.
Yeah.
I guess my issue is, like, when has Spivak shown an ability to survive adversity in his career?
Never.
Like this is not a guy who,
Yeah,
he's not a guy who wins via coming back in fights. You know what I mean?
He's got them all from the get-go, pretty much.
And we have seen Spivak kind of get scared off by power a few times in his career. So, like, while I agree with that cardio dynamic, I also feel like it could easily be a case where if Delija doesn't get him out of there but does good work, Spivak is pretty tentative to engage down the stretch and just kind of loses a clear decision. You know what I mean?
But even if
Spivak does get his game going, like, Delija is not a helpless grappler. You know what I mean? Like, he did reverse Dennis Goltsov a few times. He's 7-1 in decisions. Like, And Spivak himself has looked a bit tragic, when he's been grounded, when he's been put on his back, in the past. So I don't know. It feels trappy. I feel like I'm missing something because in my head, I'm like, I think Delija finishes this fight early at a very high clip. And like, if I'm giving him like a very, very high amount of round one finishing equity and a very high amount of moment equity, and I think he can get his own top time, how is he not better than minus 130? So I feel like I'm missing something here. But yeah, I mean, I lean to the Leisure side. I think he's got the tools to win this fight. I know all the things to worry about with him. He's fought a very, not the best strength of competition ever, but like he did just knock out Marcin Tybura. He looked good against Waldo before that early stoppage, so.
He's just had a lot of like very iffy fights. Like he's just a guy that like you would think, again, I mean, we'll go way back, like Maurice Green. You would think like a Maurice Green on the feet, he would just smoke him. This is a round one KO type of spot. You drive Maurice Green to a decision. I mean, dude, that's bad, man. That
is, I would say, the most bearish look for Delucia,
It's awful. Because like while we'll say Sergey's like a bad nail, I mean, Delucia can be a bad nail too if put in those instances, but it's more so in the grappling. Like, I mean, maybe on the feet, Sergey could land big punches. I mean, we've seen Delucia just cover up before against the cage.
He has shown some balls, to be fair, though. Like the Capoloza fight, he really, he bounced back and won 2 rounds after nearly being like sent to the grave,
still probably has a hardware edge here, but
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see it. I really want to bet Delucia. I'm just like, it really does feel extremely trappy to me, though. Doesn't it? Doesn't it feel like it's like trappy to you? Yeah. 100%. So, moving on, we got Dan Ige taking on Melquizael Costa. Current price, Costa a decent favorite here. He's minus 212. The comeback on Ige plus 182. I don't know. I'm like, I tried to fade Melk with Morgan Charrier last fight.
Same.
I should probably try to fade him with Ige, but I'm not. I mainly because I really think Ige looked terrible against Pitbull in his last fight. He looked like an old man, and who's taking a lot of damage, who's close to the end. You know what I mean? Like Pitbull is old and washed, and Pitbull was getting the better of almost every striking exchange throughout the course of that fight. And that to me is, I find deeply concerning in the context of this fight. I do think you have to give some credit here to the fact that Ige does have much better hardware. He is the bigger hitter by a lot. He is the much more durable fighter. He's also just fought the higher level of competition. So, like, there is a part of me that still wants to bet Dan here. But I also think, Melk can kind of just do the things that give him problems. It's a big cage. He's got good footwork, good point fighting. He's good at getting in and out. All things Ige struggled with. Like, Ige doesn't really like to have to, throw down, or have to chase guys down. It's not really his game. Yeah, very, very, very similar, honestly. I don't think either has a big grappling edge. And Melk's just a lot younger. Like, Melk's getting better, obviously, whereas Ige's probably regressing, So I do think it's a little wide just because, the more durable guy with more power is, who's fought better guys as an underdog. But also, I kind of think Melk's going to just outpoint him and win a decision at a big clip. What do you think, Dan?
It's tough because Ige always has a good floor. You know what I mean? He's always going to probably maybe win a round. He's going to compete, but like the ceiling is
no ceiling.
If in the wins, if it makes it somehow 15 minutes, it's got to be a close ass decision, or he's got to somehow, like in the Woodson fight, get a KO in the second round in a close fight. Otherwise, leading up to it.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at this for a second. Like he you look at his last 4 fights. Pitbull, he was just horrible from minute 1. Woodson, he didn't look great, found a KO. Murphy, he won a round from knocking him down, but otherwise got dominated on minutes. Lopes beat his ass for 2 rounds and then got tired. And then all the other guys, he just has giant hardware edges against. Feely knocks him out. Landwehr, just not enough of a threat. Damon Jackson. Yeah, dude, I mean, it's really crazy looking at it, like how, I don't want to say memey, but it does seem like he probably has gone further than his skill set deserved to get him, honestly, at 145.
100%.
So
well-rounded guy.
Moving on.
Like no elite skills.
Yeah, and he's tough and he's very fun. So, I love Danny Ige. We got Jeff Neal, Euros Medic. Current price, Neal minus 210. The comeback on Medic plus 180. I'm not going to regale the people with, all the talks about Jeff Neal's alcoholism and whatnot. I feel like everybody's heard that 10 times this week. Yeah, Jeff Neal should win this fight. Historically, he's the more durable fighter with more power. He's 4 inches longer. He's the better boxer. He's fought better guys. Buros Medic, not particularly durable himself. Pretty easy to hit if you throw straight shots. Jeff Neal should run him over, really. The issue for me is even like, I'm not even thinking about like the alcoholism stuff and the outside the cage stuff. You probably should think about it to a degree, but I'm not. It's like Jeff Neal has taken, first of all, he hasn't looked like the same fighter in like 3 or 4 years. You know, let's call it a spade here. But second of all, this dude has taken some fucking punishment lately. You know, like he's coming off an absolutely nasty KO where he was put unconscious. He had the Shavkat fight, which was really, really ugly. You know, even the Luque fight, which he won, he took a bunch of damage in. I just feel like, you know, Neal's at 35 here. He's coming off a bad KO. His form hasn't looked the same in a long time. Hasn't looked like he's in his prime in a long time. And he's fighting a guy in Medic who I don't really rate Medic particularly, but Medic is quick. He's got power. But he should find his own shots, really no problem against Neal until he goes down. I think if you were promising me this was prime Jeff Neal, I would take the -210. I think we're pretty sure it's not prime Jeff Neal. I have no interest in betting Medic because I think it's a very favorable fight for Neal, but I have no interest in laying the juice. I'm going to pass. I think there's too many red flags on the Neal side. What do you think?
I'm laying the juice.
You're laying the juice.
To me, I am.
You like the juice?
To me, yes, I like the juice. Yes, but no, to me, this is a catastrophic step down of competition, and we could talk about the form that Neal has looked lately, but like it's again Shavkat, Luque, Pratis in his last fight. I mean, Medic is fighting the Urbinez of the world, and yes, he did knock out Muslim Salikov in the last fight, but like again, huge speed edge there.
Yeah,
so like
and Muslim's like 45, literally.
Yes, huge age gap too. While Medic does have huge speed and power edges, I feel like Neal has edges pretty much everywhere else in this fight. Strength of schedule, cardio, probably even has commensurate power once we get out of round 1. So
could probably grapple him if you wanted to.
100%.
Honestly, I get it. I 100% understand it. I'm just like, I will feel so bad if I bet it and like Neal just gets like dropped in the first minute of the fight, and it's like, man, this guy is totally fucking shot, you know?
That's fair. To me, Medic's like win condition is probably round 1. If he doesn't, like to me, if it doesn't happen, like if we're extending here, how is Neal not looking good? I feel like.
I mean, if Jeff Neal loses this fight, he shouldn't be in the UFC anymore. That's the truth, you know. It's like, you know, I'd be worried about him continuing to fight in the UFC if he loses this fight.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, main event: Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, Sean Strickland, current price Fluffy -255. The comeback on Strickland +215. What do you think?
Getting a little reversed here, but I did lay the juice again here, -270. Yeah. Yes, juice boys here. Maybe just for this week, you know. Traditionally, we are not. But yeah, to me, I guess it's one where Sean just really hasn't faced this level of wrestling threat before. Like, yes, DDP landed 6 takedowns in their first fight, but no guy's going to come at him with this wrestle-heavy pressure. And not to mention, Fluffy has good pressure on the feet too, good strike and good volume. Like, he can definitely compete there. Like, Sean definitely, I think, has an edge on the feet, but not a pronounced one by any means, because he just doesn't have a ton of power. So I think the margins on the feet aren't going to be that big. Sean's going to really need to separate in terms of defending the takedowns, which I just don't think he's going to be able to do. I think Fluffy's going to be able to get those takedowns, wear on him. I think it's still probably a decision though.
I bet Strickland for a unit at +230. I don't love it. I don't love fading Fluffy, but I do feel like, to your point, yeah, I mean, Sean hasn't faced a wrestling threat like Fluffy since Usman back in the day.
Yeah.
I do think that Fluffy, for me, I mean, I love Fluffy. I love betting on Fluffy. My issue with him is like, Fluffy's had some pretty dicey rounds against some pretty low-level competition, you know? It's like, even going back to like when he first got into the UFC with like Maluco Perez, even more recently, Josh Fremd won a round against him grappling. You know, Vieira almost finished him before he gassed out. He lost the first round of Roman Kopylov. You know, there's just like a whole bunch of like Fluffy needs, like, basically we know the deal with Fluffy. He needs to get his game going. He needs to get the spin cycle going. And, you know, basically keep Strickland, preoccupied with the grappling. I am not totally convinced he's going to be. I mean, I do think he's going to be able to do that. I think he's going to be able to get takedowns. I think he's going to be able to clinch him up. I'm less convinced he's going to be able to keep him there, though. Strickland pretty good getting out of the clinch these days. Digs unders pretty well. Pretty good get-up game. He's a pretty competent grappler himself. And, Strickland, unlike the rest of these guys, Fluffy, I mean, maybe Fluffy can break him with cardio, but Strickland's got really good cardio historically himself. And I do think Strickland has a fairly precipitous edge on the feet in the boxing here. And I think he should be able to, my view is that rounds are going to be close in this fight. That's kind of what I think. I feel like Strickland is going to be able to keep margins pretty thin here. I do favor Fluffy because I think the optics of the takedowns coming over and over again certainly benefit him. But I also feel like, I don't think it's just going to be a case of like Fluffy constantly has Strickland on the fence, right? Like Fluffy took a while.
He could constantly have him on the back foot.
Yeah, he could. But also, Fluffy's been put on the back foot by Kopilov. He's been put on the back foot by Pereira. Like, it doesn't really shock me if Strickland gets like full rounds where he's pressuring forward and landing shots. Like, even Brendan Allen kind of had that going for him a bit early in the third round in their last fight against Fluffy. So, yeah, I think this is a gigantic step up in competition for Fluffy. And what's more, I don't really care about that so much as like Fluffy kind of has the style to deal with that. But like, if you were to go look at Fluffy's last, 8 fights. It's like Shabazian, Vieira, Fremd, Kopilov, Pereira, Delval. Nice run. All of these guys are like tailored to like melt against Fluffy Hernandez. Now he's fighting a guy who is not tailored to melt against Fluffy Hernandez, who's a competent grappler and has really good hands. I still give Fluffy the edge because his style, it's very Merab-esque. I think the biggest difference between someone like him and a Merab is Merab's physicality for 135 is like elite, whereas I don't think Fluffy's physicality is elite. So I think it's going to be a close fight. I wouldn't be shocked to see like Strickland, be able to rebuff the takedowns a fair amount and get his boxing going. But again, I wouldn't be shocked to see Fluffy take him into the spin cycle and break him either. I think there's a higher floor on Fluffy, but I think the 230 was enough for me to take the shot on Strickland here.
Fair enough.
So we'll see what happens. But yeah, guys, that'll do it. We got the card tomorrow. I'll tweet out my plays in the morning. Right now, I've only taken Smith and Strickland. See what else I'm going to add. Probably some totals and whatnot.
You gonna maybe add that doesn't go with the Leavitt fight with me?
Yeah, I might. I kind of like that, to be honest with you. I'm feeling it. But yeah. We'll see what happens. We'll be back next week. We got, is it a pay-per-view next week? No, it's Noche.
No, 2 weeks.
UFC Noche. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so we got Noche, and then we got another number card. So yeah, guys, drop a like, subscribe, share the show. Follow me on Twitter at MMA Fox, Danny at Danny_Lags. We'll be back next week. Good luck on your bets this weekend. Peace.